I want to put this question out sort of for everyone. Advice for the next generation. All three of you have had similar and very different experiences. You happen to be executives, women executives, and in IT. The funnel just keeps getting smaller and smaller there. So there are very few of you. So for the next generation, for that to change, what advice would you have for the developers that are just starting, or the new MBA student who doesn't have an IT background but is very interested in process? What advice would you give to this next generation of young women when it comes to support and relationships and mentorship and confidence and just doing it? Patti, I'd love to start with you.
I think the first thing I would say is sponsorship. And I mean, going into an organization, whether you're entry or you've been around for a while and you're coming into an organization, it's getting someone who really recognizes your value. I love what Mathy said early related to value, because I think especially in IT and a business, my spiel has always been, let them know your value. They don't want to know how you code it. They don't want to know how, they want to know, the business wants to know your value to the organization and how you make the organization or enable the organization better. So going back, I think it's the sponsorship and just finding a senior manager or someone above you that sees the value and wants to put you out there. It doesn't mean they're mentoring you, doesn't mean anything like that, but they're sponsoring what they see in you. That takes relationship, that takes being vulnerable, that takes a lot more than just picking somebody out of the directory, you know, the Active Directory. So I think it's building those relationships, sharing your value, and getting that sponsor.
Great. And Mathy?
I completely agree. There are more women graduating from colleges now than men. So the amount of candidates out there is endless. I think also the next generation of women, maybe it's societal, maybe it's just a generational thing. They don't see their counterpart males to be any better than them. So I think that's a positive, right? But I completely agree. I think once you get into a space, you know, again, looking for innovation and diverse thinking, finding mentorship is absolutely key, right? I think every one of us throughout our careers and our journey can point to one or more people who you would say brought me along because, you know, they either, you know, gave you that little push or pushed you to see things in a different way. I certainly do. I have folks in my career that I can say thank you to, right? And those are absolutely important, and learning from those experiences. I think the other big thing for me is understanding who your audience is. No matter where you are, no matter what room you're in, you have to understand who your audience is and tailor your approach, your communication, your message to who is listening to it. And one of my coaches along the way, when I go into a room and I was so excited and I had so much to say and went on and on and on and on, I lost the audience, right? At the end, I was so frustrated. What happened? Said, think of 3 things that you want the audience to walk away with. What is the 3 things you want them to remember from you? And that was a key message for me.
Thank you. That's great advice. And Simona?
So just to build on the topic of mentorship and sponsorship, it's about role models, right? We gotta seek for those role models in everything, not just in your company, but in politics, right? I mean, it's 2021 and we are finally having a woman vice president, right? Philanthropy, in technology, in science, the more role models we can actually pick up and pull. I mean, at the tip of our tongue, you know, when you talk about role models, the first probably 5 names are male, right? And that's a problem for me, because until we get parity in those role models, you know, women in those key places that throw up the, you know, your tongue, you know, easily, we're not going to get parity with male. So I think it's going to take longer. Unfortunately, I'm a little bit of a glass half empty in terms of getting to this parity, even though women are graduating in larger numbers. And the second thing is independence. You have to teach young girls independence from an early age. They need to fend for themselves. They need to self-advocate. I'm a safe harbor, but they on their own. I'd rather they fail early when the ramifications of this failure are much lower than obviously fail later in life. So, and failure is okay, right? So I keep on telling my daughter, she says, what kind of a day you had? I said, well, you know, I have good days and bad days. She said, but I think you're the boss. You win everything. I said, no, actually, I win only about 40% of the things that 60% of the time I have to potentially step back and take somebody else's opinion. And maybe their idea is better than mine. Maybe just I have to back off. I don't win them all. I win probably 40 to 50%, but that's for me a good betting average. And that's what they need to get used to, that failure is not fatal.
I can see all of us nodding here, and this is a conversation I think that could go for another 2 hours. We have so much more to talk about, but I want to leave the audience with just the message of hope. We have 3 strong leaders here that have spoken about the challenges and the successes and the support that they received from their families and their employers. And 2020 has been a challenging year, but we have a future ahead of us where we are going to have a female vice president, and the kid of the year is a 15-year-old girl. And the last thing that I would say is that gender equality or having women in leadership roles in no way takes away from our male colleagues. It makes us all stronger. This is not an either or conversation. This is very much about bringing us all up and making us better and stronger. I want to thank you guys so much for taking the time to chat with me. We covered a lot of very important topics. I think our audience really needs to take a moment to realize how hard it's been, but that there is hope and there's still opportunity down the road. And with role models like you guys, I think there's a real opportunity for us to keep succeeding. I want to thank you, Mathy, Simona, and Patti, for joining me for this conversation.